Good afternoon. All right, how are you doing today? Are you having fun? Learning lots of cool things? Seeing lots of cool stuff? My name is Chris Carter. I work here at the Bankhead Theater. Who's been here before to this theater? Who hasn't been here? Who's the first time? Well, welcome. Thank you for coming. Please come back. We do lots of wonderful things here in this theater, and we have a great heart for education, especially in the arts. And we are a nonprofit cultural arts center, and we could not do what we do without support. And we couldn't put this event on today without the support of several people. And I just want to say thank you to some of our sponsors, TopCon, Lamb Research, Lawrence Livermore Lab, Majestic Net, DraftSpace, Black Lab R&D, Cisco, Sandia National Laboratories, School Retooled, Tri-Valley Coder Dojo, Livermore School District, Livermore Science and Society Center, The Independent, Google, and Castlight. So I really want to thank them for making this day possible. Also, before we start, I want you to make sure you are aware of where the exits are in case we need to get up quickly and move. But I also want to encourage you to check out everything that's out here today. If you just got here, there's over 50 booths and exhibits, all related to technology and the arts. And here at the Livermore Valley Performing Arts Center, we truly believe that art and technology and science go together really well. And today is a day to really celebrate that. And we have the perfect speaker to demonstrate that. Jack McCauley, by the way, is also a supporter of today and a donor to the Livermore Valley Performing Arts Center, and specifically this event. So not only did he want to speak here, he wanted to support it in another meaningful way too. So I want to say thank you to him for that. Jack is an American engineer, hardware designer, inventor, video game developer, and philanthropist. Jack is best known for designing the guitars and drums for the Guitar Hero video game series. Jack was also co-founder and chief engineer at Oculus, where he designed and built the Oculus DK1 and DK2 virtual reality headsets. Oculus was acquired by Facebook for $2 billion. Jack holds numerous U.S. patents for inventions in software, audio effects, virtual reality, motion control, computer peripherals, and game controllers. That sounds like a lot of fun. Jack was awarded a full scholarship to attend UC Berkeley, where he studied electrical engineering, right down the road. Jack grew up in Concord, by the way. He currently teaches design innovation in the College of Engineering at UC Berkeley and serves as an innovator in residence at Jacob Hall at UC Berkeley. So please welcome Jack McCauley.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. A couple of things before I launch into this. I am a philanthropist. I do give money to, particularly to education. This is the type of event where there's a lot of young people here where I like to come in. And today I'm not going to dive into technology, and I'm not going to dive into transistors and CMOS and all this other stuff. I'm going to talk about how I started out as a very young person and how I ended up where I am. I've had a lot of success, primarily through some principles I learned as a child and as a young adult, and I want to talk about those things. Those are very, very important. I'm not trying to offend anyone. There's some things in here which you might find offensive, but this is pertaining to myself. So it says unfiltered. I'm not filtering anything today. So that's me. That's probably couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, and that's the Oculus headset, and that was for an interview I did at IGN, which is a gaming thing, and online. And these are some of the things I've worked on. I designed the first scrolling computer mouse in the 80s, late 80s, and I invented that. And the guitars and stuff, I didn't invent the guitar part, but I was the chief engineer there, so I'll advance to it. And I'm going to tell you where I work now. I'm really excited about this current. I'm a faculty member at UC Berkeley, and I work at the Jacobs Institute. Jacobs Institute was funded by private donations, myself included. The primary donor was Qualcomm and Paul Jacobs and myself. I didn't build the building, but I bought all the equipment and the staff, paid for the staff for a while. So that's where I am, primarily there. And it's a beautiful building. It's brand new, it's green, it's energy compliant and all these other things. But it's a makerspace, and we have a lot of the things that schools have now. We have 3D printers, we've got laser cutters, we have a water jet machine, we have all this equipment there. And I will say something about my term there. I'm a kind of an old school guy. Like if I had to make a plastic guitar, we would send it out to a model shop, and they would make it for us. We'd give them a design, they would make it. And when I went to Oculus, this is the generational change. The guys have these 3D printers, and I go, what is that thing? And they go, that's a 3D printer. And I said, why don't you just send it out to a model shop? Well, they can turn it over pretty fast. And so I learned a lot of stuff from working with young people. I hope they learned something from me. I think they did, I'm not sure. But so this facility here is an educational facility. Any student on campus can take a class in design at Jacobs. This is myself. I grew up in Europe and the U.S. My early life was in Europe. I spent most of my life in Concord. I'm from Concord, California, which is a city in the East Bay. I don't know if you know where it is, but I was a mediocre student. When I first did this slide, I misspelled mediocre. So I think that's spelled right now. But I'll expand on that later because I'm mostly self-educated and self-taught. And this one here, I was forced to go to church as a kid, and I thought it was excruciatingly boring. I had to sit there for an hour. But later on in life, some of those things that sort of by repetition sunk into me, and it has a lot to do with my success. I'm also a serial daydreamer. I was constantly in trouble as a kid for staring out the window and not doing my work. And I don't know what I was thinking about, but I was probably daydreaming. So I still like that. And finally, I have an advisor and a mentor network, people I bounce things off of, like great ideas I have that aren't so great. And some of the stuff, when people give you advice, it's usually meant with kindness, and they're going to tell you the truth. You ask for someone for advice. I mean, how often do people give you bad advice? I mean, I suppose it happens, but I have these trusted group of people around me. One of the professors I work for at a startup company, and some other people, and I keep them close to myself. When I have a waxing dilemma, I can go talk to them. Highly recommended, and it usually can't be your parents. You can ask your parents, but I try to ask outsiders, so not family members. Okay, I'm the co-founder of Oculus. Oculus is has everyone heard of Oculus? They make a virtual reality headset, and I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory on that if I have time. I don't want to spend too much time on that because there's other things I want to talk about in here. I was the chief engineer, and I produced their products for them. My job there as an executive was managing the team, managing the production, managing the development on the headset, the components and all these things, and the whole team, the group, people, keeping everyone in line and trying to herd them to get the thing done. It was pretty successful. I heard $2 billion. I think we sold the company for $3 billion, and $750 million of that was primarily for retention bonuses for key employees, and that's what happens. When you sell a startup, you get the stock, but you don't get it right away. They kind of give it to you over a period of time, and that's to retain you, because if they gave you everything at once, most people would split. And so that's the kind of the way it works. So a lot of the money that was in there was just to retain key people. We had some really, really talented engineers there, some of the best in the world. There's one guy, who's heard of John Carmack? One of the guys is John Carmack, and brilliant guy. He pioneered all the 3D gaming. He basically single-handedly did that. He also single-handedly developed the API for NVIDIA's graphic chips, working with them. That's the kind of guy, the caliber of people we had there. It was a great experience. When you go to a big company, I'm not a big company guy. I mean, I am a big company guy. I work at big companies, but it's just not for me. And I'm pretty old now, and we sold the business. I'll tell you what happened there. It was interesting. And I'm an inventor. When I did this mouse thing years ago, I didn't patent it. I didn't really know what patents were. It was like 25 or something like that, 26. And I later found out that it's a good idea to do that, especially if you have something that you start seeing in the world. After that, I patented everything I could, and I hired an attorney to help me with the patents, or a patent agent. So I mentioned so I was a key developer at Guitar Hero, key engineer, because of my background I'm a video game engineer, and my background in gaming and sort of art and creative stuff. That's where I ended up, and it was a natural fit to go to Guitar Hero because I had a tremendous amount of experience, and especially in the production side, engineering, and all the aspects of that, programming. I programmed and developed all the drums for Guitar Hero, the guitars, and other pieces of plastic. It was a very successful franchise. It didn't last long. It's not like Call of Duty, which they keep launching new versions. It just has this sort of curve where it went kaplunk and went away. But we sold 64 million of those, and it was the largest video game in history at the time, the largest sales. It was $2 billion in revenue for the company. This was Activision, a big company. Activision's a great company, by the way. It's one of the best places I've ever worked, and working on Guitar Hero was great. I mean, working on Oculus was okay. I have 30 years in video game engineer, developer of key hardware for CDS. I went out of college and went to a startup. This is naturally where I want to go, small thing. And they developed a sound system for film and recording the sound digitally straight onto the film without a magnetic stripe. I found out last Sunday that thing got an Oscar. I didn't even know. It was an Oscar winner, not for us, but for another company that hired us to do the work for them. But it was kind of cool that I had a part in that. And I got a full academic scholarship for UC Berkeley. That was through the military. I wasn't in the military. I worked for the Navy, and apparently they saw something in me. I don't know. But it enabled me to go to Berkeley, and they covered my living cost. I still had to work a little bit, but it was a really good deal for me. Now I think that's many hundreds of thousands of dollars. Back then, I'm not only talking about $25,000. It was an astronomical amount of money, but still helped. And I'm a faculty member at UC Berkeley, and I'm the inventor of the scrolling mouse. And I've been doing this stuff since the award I got when I was 9 years old. I got a scholarship. And I took an alternative education. I'm self-educated. I went to class because I had to go. But I spent my time at the library and tinkering and fooling around with things and playing with things. I encourage parents, academics are of course important, and studying and all these things, but give them some time to do things they like to do, which don't involve the phone. Give them, Lego was a popular toy as a kid, and it wasn't in the United States, it was in Europe. When I was in Europe, I saw it there. I started playing with Lego at a very young age, and I just love things like that. So, and that thing there I'm wearing on my head is the very first, one of the very first headsets. This is a room experience headset where you can walk around in an area, in a virtual area, and you'll see furniture and things like that there. I didn't like that thing, it made me sick, but this is the kind of stuff that I've been very fortunate. I'll tell you how I got here and what I did, and I mentioned the principles that I learned, and I have a mentor network to bounce my not so great ideas off of, and I get really good feedback. If you trust someone like that and they know you intimately and personally, they're more obliged to tell you what they really think about what you're doing. Well, this is how I got here, and this is directed at young people mostly, but I think it applies to other people here. There's this law of retaliation, and it's actually in Exodus in the Bible, and it's eye for an eye. And what that means, though, it's a profound thing. It means that the nobleman can't gouge out the eyes of 20 peasants because he got his eye gouged out. It means that your value as a person is the same as the peasant. It's pretty profound. Of course, in the New Testament, they tossed all that away, and the retaliation is not good. And I agree. I never retaliate against people. If I feel I'm wronged, I will try to forgive them. And it's been key because I felt like I've been wronged a lot. I feel it. And education is very important. I'm not talking about the kid coming home and doing 10 hours of homework. When I was going to school, we didn't really have homework. We did it in class a little tiny bit. So you were free to go play or do whatever you wanted to do, and that's really key for me. And stay in touch with people and don't burn your bridges. When something didn't work out, let's say I go to work at a company and there's somebody I had a problem with or something like that, and I left the company, I would eventually call them back or email them and say, how you're doing, how's your family? And it did two things. It made them feel better, but mostly made me feel better after I left, and I sort of had to forgive the person. And so be helpful to people. I always tried to help my colleagues if they needed something from me. I would do my utmost to try to help them. And it's remembered, and be polite and be kind, and of course be honest. You can't lie and cheat and do things like that. I've seen that in workplace, politics, and I just don't like it. It just really is a negative, and I'll get into a little bit of that and tell you how I managed to. So do the things that you don't want to do. I don't feel like going swimming in the afternoon, but I do it anyways. I don't want to go. It's just, I don't want to do it, but I'll do it because I know I'll feel better afterwards. And I don't want to go to mass or anything like that. I don't want to do that, but I know that it's better for me if I do. And then have a plan for the day. What are you going to do today? I don't know. I don't sit and watch I I have a plan. I can mow the lawn or do something like that. Whatever I want to do. Procrastination. I know somebody who's very close to me who's a serial procrastinator, and he's constantly depressed about why he can't get things done, and because he's not doing them. I said, just do it. You'll feel better about it when you do it. And exercise is very important to me, and keeping track of my health. And of course, the mentoring part is very important. Even when I was in my 20s, I had someone that I'd ask questions about things I was trying to do or my life or whatever. And most importantly for me is having a God in my life. I know this is, a very personal subject to a lot of people, but it's important to me because there are intractable problems that you just don't know what to do, anything to do. How do you know how to handle it? And that always helped me. So in my childhood, I spent hours painting and drawing. That's what I like to do. And I spent time at a library instead of class. I did not go to class. I went to the library and read. If I need to learn math, I can learn math, and I would do it on my own. And I don't recommend that, by the way. That's not the fast way to do it. I got in a lot of trouble, too, doing that. And I spent most of my time on hobbies, making things and building things. If you've got 3D printers, they're cheap. It's a great opportunity for people to do that. And my parents furnished me with things I needed for my hobbies. They had the resources to do that. And then my parents didn't have a lot of money, but they had for that. So I'm going to show you a couple slides here. This is a car I built, and I finished this in 2010. I'm an automotive enthusiast. And this car, I started in 2005. And when I left Activision, which was Guitar Hero, I took a year or two off just to decompress. And so I'll do something like this and work on it. This thing took me 5 years, and it's got a V12 engine in it. And I did all the work myself. This is really what I like to do. I like the electronics and working at a company, but it's not what I like to do. I'm more interested in this stuff. If I could do this and get paid, the problem is it doesn't pay much. I would have done that. So this is the fourth car I built, and the next one I'll show you a slide is one of the ones I'm working on now. That's an overhead view of it in my shop. I have a R&D facility really close to here that I work on things in, and this is our current project. I have staff there, small staff. I have a fabricator, a machinist, and admin, and me. But this is what we're working on. This is a race car. The body is off of a 1970 Lola T70 Mark IIIB. The chassis and all the vehicle dynamics were done internally. We built the wheels. We built all of the parts. You see those gold parts there. Those were all built inside of a machine that can do that. And I made this is a seat sitting on the left. I made the seats for it. I made all the parts for it. I'm 2 years into this, or 2.5 years into it, and it's only 60% complete. But it's getting there. Oops. There it is again. Let's see. There it is. That's a shot of it head on. And you can see the car on the back there. That's the car I'm building. I always liked that car, so I decided to build one. But all the components and things you see here were made internally, except the body. With the black part, I bought that. So that's what I'm working on now. And this has some interesting things. It's got a wireless steering wheel. The steering wheel has a radio inside of it, and I can turn on and turn off the headlights and honk the horn and stuff through a radio inside that steering wheel there. You can see it sort of sticking up there. Why, it's double keying on me. And that's the engine. We fabricated everything internally. I mean, some things I bought the brakes and stuff like that, but all the other stuff we fabricated internally. The engine I bought. And that's my lab there. And we all, except for the admin, we sit communally in there. And the guys, I bounce ideas off people. What do you think if I do this? And I usually get the kind of reaction that I expect. But I got a little bit of help with it. Basically, all the engineering and stuff we did internally. Excuse me. So I have a little video here. I endeavored after I left. I was working at Facebook. After I left Facebook, that I would build a system to track an object in flight. And what's the purpose of this? Well, if you can track an object in flight, you can track someone's head position in any room, even a room this size. This thing is, basically what you see here is a ping pong ball covered with reflective tape, and there's a laser pointed at it in a Lissajous pattern, that sort of figure 8 you see there. And the computer tries to find the center of the greatest reflection coming off that ball, which is the center of the ball. And that's my son on the right there. So we got a system running. I bought the mirror. I can't make a MEMS. It's got a really tiny, tiny mirror about the size of a pencil eraser in it that servos. And it can steer the laser on that ball. And so let me run this. There it goes. So now you can see it scanning, then it hits the ball and finds it, and it can track the position. So I can read the mirror position back and find out where the laser's pointing, where the ball is. So that's what I tried to do. I tried to sell this. I contacted some people, and I didn't get any interest. And kind of VR kind of slid off a little bit. It got sidelined. I'll talk a little bit about Oculus in a minute here. I started there, working there in 2012 in June. I got contacted. I mentioned the relationship thing, maintaining relationships. Because I had a good relationship with someone at Activision, they directed the guy to come talk to me about building a VR headset. And so the guy comes and meets me and has the thing in his hand, and I didn't think much of it. I mean, it looked pretty hokey. The guy's 19 years old. And so I tried it on, and it was really cool. I mean, it was profound. And I said, I want to do this, and what do I do? I kind of, a little bit, the experience level of some people there wasn't very high, but I kind of looked at the balance of it. And so we founded a company, and those two of the other co-founders went about trying to raise money, because you have to raise money for hardware. It's very expensive. We got 15 million and another additional 75 million, 90 million, and then we burned through that in a year. It was gone. So it's a cash-based business. With our first developer kit, we actually were making money on it. It was sold at pretty good, margins were pretty good on it, and profit was good. It was cheap to make, and we were doing pretty well. But can you sustain that at a company? Because all products have this sort of curve where they go up and they go down. So we had to come up with another one. We built an interim version. And that was just for a trade show. But we came up with a second developer kit. It was now at $350 retail with no margin. And so what was happening was that we were throwing more and more hardware in there and more performance at a higher cost. And so We did that. We did the first one in 90 days. From the time I started putting the pencil to the paper to the time it was finished was 90 days in shipping. And the second one was more like, the development time was much longer, but the actual production part start was like 120 days. So it got done pretty fast. The second one we sold 70,000, and then the second one we sold 150,000 before we stopped sales. So that our growth is twice, right? 70 to 150, it's 2 times. So the team at Oculus asked me, goes, what's the next one going to be? And I said, well, it's going to be 300,000. I said, that's the number. I mean, I can see how it's going. I mean, where do I get that? I just kind of know. It's just experience. And so lo and behold, we come out with the consumer version, it's 300,000 pieces. That's what we sold total at an enormous development cost, expensive thing, and with high-res OLEDs and special lenses in it. In the case of Activision, where we were working on Guitar Hero, our costs were $6 for a plastic guitar, and with the game bundled for 90 or somewhere around there, 70 to 90, and the revenue was really high and the profits were very high. You can't make hardware like that and sell it for nothing. I mean, Microsoft could do that because they sell the Xbox console. It costs them nothing to, I mean, they don't make any money on it, probably lose money on it, but you buy games and you buy content for it and it allows you to play the games and that kind of covers the cost. We didn't have such a model. There was no game, nothing. And to endeavor to write a game, I'll give you the Grand Theft Auto 5, GT5, which is a big popular game, came out. It's $500 million to make that game, $500 million. And that's just astronomically expensive. And so to get people to adopt our platform is very difficult because they have to, you have to ship a lot of units and you have to develop content for it. So it's a very risky business, but being in the video game business is profitable. It's bigger than movies, but it's very, very high risk. You can have a hit, and then the next one is a flop, and your studio can implode. And the studio, I mean, all the people leave, and so it's very, very damaging. So in the case of Oculus, here it comes. Mark Zuckerberg buys the company, and puts revenue, investment into it, and gets us a building to go and do our stuff in. When that transition happened, I started sensing that I wouldn't be a good fit for Facebook. And when you get a lot of money like that, people start getting really greedy and nasty. It's really, really bad. I sensed that I was about to get canned towards the end of the transition. Why would they do that? I'm the key person, one of the key people there, to keep my equity. Because in my contract it says, if you get fired, you don't get anything. So I went to my boss. I said, look, I want to resign. I want all my equity. I just want to leave. And he frowned. He didn't like that, but he did. He let me leave. The other guys have to wait 5 years to get their stuff. But I mean, that's the kind of stuff that goes in. And I've seen this before. When you've got something successful like that, there's a lot of money involved. It gets really nasty, and the politics and all the other stuff. So I learned through my principles how to deal with that, and and I have an advisor I can ask questions to, and I did. I'd say, this is really bothering me. This guy's a jerk, and whatever. But it was really helpful to me to do that. But I kind of sensed that. I have good instincts, I think, and I sensed something was up, especially when my replacement showed up before the transition. I go, who's this guy? He goes, he's the new manufacturing engineer. I go, okay. So I knew something was up. So in fact, they did give Facebook, Mark gave me my equity, and I was good. I was happy. And I still talk to him, but not very much. I mean, things have a little bit gone south there with the product. But, that's my whole story here is like, don't hold grudges and don't retaliate, and have an advisor. And if you have children, allow them free time to do stuff that that is important to them. If it's an instrument or music or whatever they are, coloring, I don't know, whatever they like to do. So my folks certainly did that. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm just going to take some questions if anyone wants to ask me questions. No one? Yes?
Your tracking system, the one that you showed us
Yes.
up front, you mentioned that you had taken that out for commercialization, and how does it stand? How does it look?
Well, it works. The basis of that stuff was actually done at Berkeley. It's a MEMS thing. It's a microelectronic machine on silicon. It's a little tiny machine on silicon. So I didn't, because of the market for VR was cooling, I wasn't going to get it. I knew I wasn't going to get a hit on it. And what would I get for it? I'm not sure that it, how I would package that to sell it, but I tried to do that. But it's just tough. If VR had taken off and this was a viable, I mean, it has applications in driverless cars and all these other things. It does. And, but how would I end up actually selling that? And do I want to start a company again? And I was like, I don't want to do another company. It just is not appealing.
Quick follow-up question. Could you put one of those things on a Gear VR?
That's exactly what I did.
And then, oh, wow.
He did that already,
The
yeah.
reason I asked that is
Yeah.
because the Gear VR has got 7 million units out.
Yeah.
You put one of those there, you put the target someplace in the environment, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you have 6 degrees of freedom.
The unit had Bluetooth in it, so it could communicate directly with had Bluetooth in it.
Wow.
The tracker did. Had all that stuff in it, yeah. And we debugged it on a Nexus tablet, Android tablet, so it had all that in it. Yeah.
What is that, the product that you invented, the Oculus?
Yeah.
What exactly does that do?
I have a patent on it. I'm not the inventor of it. VR goes back to the late 40s, 1940s. What does it do? It's stereoscopic, so your eyes see 2 different images. You close one eye, you get a slightly different eye, open the other. Your brain blends those together to get depth. That's what we do. We burn we take 2 images and put them right into your pupil, and they're slightly out of phase, so your brain sees stereo. Much like those viewfinders that like Disney, that's stereopsis. That's basically how they work. 2 cameras are really close together, stereo camera.
So it's just enhances the video game?
Yeah, you walk around and you actually interact with 3D characters. You walk up to them and there's a person standing there. It's not real, but an avatar, and you can interact with them. So that's basically what it is. And it has applications in engineering and medical science, all kinds of applications, chemical engineering, models. There was a guy at an event I went to who took MRI images and put them in 3D so that the surgeon could see where the tumor was or where the growth was. So it has great applications. And at Jacobs, we're actually doing some stuff with it right now to create, let's say I want to create a virtual car, and model it and walk around it and look at it. I mean, that's what I want to do with it. But, it has all kinds of applications. And gaming is a limited one. And there's artifacts with it, too, that a vestibular illness, a vestibular sickness like your inner ear that we haven't been able to solve. That, gaming is just not the best platform for it. Yes?
Which VR company do you think has the edge now?
Vive Pro, yeah. It's a room experience. The tracking system's novel and clever, how it tracks your head in the room. And that's just my preference. Of course, Oculus is kind of like my baby, but to be honest, that's probably the Vive I think is a better headset. There's some subtle differences between them, but this Vive allows you to walk around in a room. So.
Did you go to Concord High School?
I went to Ignacio Valley High.
Oh, IB?
Yeah. I went to Oak Grove, yeah.
Have you seen the movie Player One by Steven Spielberg?
I have not seen that yet, no. Yeah.
I was going to ask, do you think that the technology will evolve so it can perform the same way in that movie, virtual reality, like they're actually in it?
Well, have you tried one of the headsets with some of the applications, the apps that are online?
Yeah, but this one is like it actually has where you can run different directions, so it seems like you're actually going to those places and you're
Yeah.
doing that reality.
I mean, if there's the Vive is set up over here. If you want to really try it, you should go check it out. It's really cool. I mean, it's really profound. I haven't seen it yet because I don't want to see it right now. I'm going to wait. Yes? What do I think about the future of AI? Okay, that's a good question. Does anyone know what AI is, what it means? Yes? Yes?
Artificial intelligence.
It does mean that, yes. But, so I endeavored in the 90s to learn it because I had heard this thing. I said, meaning the computer can think. And I got to find out how a computer does that. So I started reading white papers. I went to the library. I found white papers, academic papers on it, and it's diverse. It's spread over different areas. There's neural networks, which is the primary AI right now is a neural net. There's fuzzy logic. There's these other aspects of technology that are AI, but primarily I think right now it means a neural network. It can't do much. The buzz is there. It's really good at facial recognition and pattern recognition. The algorithms that run the neural nets are really good at that, but it can't think. It just says yes or no, that's the right person, that's not the right person. So that's a current state. I'm not an expert in AI, but that's my understanding of where it is right now. It'll never be able to duplicate the brain in my view. I just don't think it's possible. The soul exists up there, and you've got pleasure pathways and all these other artifacts, different kinds of neurons. So, anyone else?
Are you getting closer to curing that nauseousness from the VR? I know you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, it's misunderstood, or that no one understands how that. I mean, we could trigger it. And I think they know which ganglion can do it, which nerve bundle, but how to, I ran a really good experiment, I'm going to run out of time here, where I set up a picture of a cat, and I said, does everyone see distance the same? Because everyone can tell me that's about 20 feet, right? I mean, that's 6 feet, 7 feet. And so I set a picture of a cat, and I took 2 pointers, and I asked them to position the pointers when they were standing on a tape line to the head and the tail of the cat. And then I got widely different numbers. Like one guy said it's 6 inches. One guy said it's 3.4 inches, standing in the exact same place, same height. So there's just a lot we don't understand, and I don't understand how that comes. I mean, roughly the same pupil distance, so that's not it. That's just the way it is. People see, you see color red because your brain has identified that color as red, but red may be slightly different colors to other people. I mean, that's just, it's just the way the brain is. I don't think it's a mystery. So to answer your question, you can trigger. The military's done the most work on this stuff because of pilots. Because some people get sick doing loops and stuff in an airplane. They have a really good understanding of it. There's this thing called latency and frame rate. That's part of it. But increased frame rates increase cost. How fast the image is running through there into the headset. That just drives the price up. Excuse me. So no, we don't understand vestibular sickness, how it's triggered, kinda. So. Anyone else? Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack. Before you leave, we have something for you.
Oh, wow.
So
Oh, wow.
I hope you like flowers and
I do.
a plaque commemorating your day here
Thank you.
and your innovation. Thank you so much. Everybody give them a hand.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Our next speaker will be Carl Wente at 1:45, so come on back for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.